matters. Anyway, when I looked down at my body and they were working on it in the ER room, what I looked at, I didn't look like I was breathing. I didn't look like I had life in me.
So you're in the hospital room now, and you're out of your body, looking at your lifeless body, or what seemed a lifeless body there, and Chuck, the other pilot, is sharing a room with a curtain.
Yeah, I actually wasn't thinking about Chuck. After we got out of the hospital, I was pretty well focused on yours truly, and I didn't even see Chuck come in or whatever. And so I was looking really at myself and focusing on my body and what I was experiencing. And I really was saying things like this, man, that looks like I'm dead, but that can't be. I mean, it looks like I'm dead. That's clearly my body. But I'm up here, and I've never felt more alive. And I was not really worried. I wasn't panicking or anything like I said earlier. But something began to happen, a commotion in the other room. And when I say room, I'm talking probably, I don't know, 15 feet away, 20 feet away. But there was a curtain, a thick gray curtain had separated, so I could not see over. And there was clearly this commotion going on. And strangely, this commotion really grabbed at my heart. Now, I'm focused on myself and what's going on. But for some reason, Pastor John, I feel like if I had a heart in my chest at that moment, in my spiritual chest, someone had grabbed that heart and just squeezed it and was trying to just hurt my heart in a way that would be completely fatal. And because it felt like this, but obviously my body is down there, my heart is down there. It seemed like it was not beating, but I had just this horrid sensation.
That just came over you.
Yes. And it was involving me, but it was not happening to me. Something was happening, and began to recognize that it's coming from just a few feet away in that same room. And there were spiritual forces going on. Pastor John, nowadays people hear about spiritual forces. I never heard of spiritual forces. There were no movies out like that. I was not a Sunday school kid. I didn't know any about this stuff. And yet I sensed spiritual forces going on, and this was evil. This was evil spiritual forces. It even seemed like someone had grabbed the power, the electrical power of the hospital, and was starting to turn the power switch on and off, on and off, on and off. And then it just started being drained, like a rheostat switch had been turned way down, and it was just sucking the power out of the hospital. And this all happened in a short period of time, but long enough to process that something spiritual is happening and something horrible is happening, way worse than death. Death is bad. Unless you're going to heaven, then it's not that bad at all. In fact, you think about it, it's wonderful. But death and hell is what this was about. Someone's spiritual destination was at stake, and the decision I knew had already been made. This wasn't a decide yes, no, maybe. This decision was over. This was judgment time. And I'm sitting there thinking about my body, thinking about what I'm going through right now, but all of my attention is over here, watching something that I can't even explain. What I am positive of is that my flight instructor, my mentor, died that day. I think he died twice. I think he died at the monument, at the crash site. I think then there was life in him, and then they tried to resuscitate him, and then he died again. And when I talked to my doctor, Homer Graham, about this months later, almost a year later, he verified, because I pinpointed and asked him, you got to tell me about that guy that you worked on. What guy? The guy that you worked on the day, no, I didn't work on anybody, just you, Dale. Somebody worked on, oh, well, that would be, well, then who was it? And he began to explain to me that Chuck and I were put in the same emergency room, explained the whole thing, and then I realized that my my flight instructor had been taken to hell.
How did you know that?
I knew it in my heart, and when I woke up from the coma 4 days later, I could not deal with it. I couldn't deal with it. It took me, did I know it was there? Yes, push it down. Just push it down, push it down. I couldn't deal with it because there was too much on the other side of the coin. That was indeed horrid, and it was bad, but I was blamed for this airplane crash for a long time. I had to deal with that. I was told I'm never going to walk again. I looked like Frankenstein.
So back to that day, you're in the emergency room, you're watching your resuscitation attempts. What happened after that?
After the heaviness of what occurred in the emergency room that I knew was Chuck, that it began to leave, and then I went back to my body, and I began to question again why I'm here. But I felt like I needed new air, new blood or something, because I had been so drained by this experience.
So you're going in and out of consciousness, or in and out of your body?
No, I was out of my body the whole time.
Oh.
Once I was in the emergency room, I was out of my body the whole time. But what happened, this is kind of important. If I don't tell it, it would not give the story justice. I was looking at my body again, and an image came that occurred, and it happened in my life. It's strange, but I saw an image that flashed into my mind, and it was like a little YouTube video being played for me, and I was 11 years old, and I was kneeling at a church summer camp in Southern California, a place called Cedar Crest, and I had asked God to forgive me of my sins. I had invited Jesus into my heart as a little kid, and man, I was sincere about that decision, and I remembered it, and I looked at myself in a sense and go, wow, man, I was genuine. I was sincere. I really believed in God. I really believed that Jesus was the Son of God, and He is. And I invited Him into my life and into my heart. And
are you experiencing this like as a review of your life, or is it just that particular scene?
In this case, it was one scene, and that was the scene. There were no other scenes at that time. Nothing else happened. But boy, was it revealing, because I realized that I was no longer that tender-hearted kid, and I had become so selfish and so self-absorbed, and I felt horrible, ashamed that my life had come to this. And I was actually thinking at the moment, gosh, I'm so young to have died at 19, and look what has happened. Oh my, this is just too bad. But, well, okay, but gosh, cut down early in life, selfish, self-absorbed. And then all of a sudden, the guilt, the shame that I was feeling started to disappear. I started feeling lighter, and I started moving out of the room backwards, still looking forwards, but moving out backward. I started moving just very rapidly out of the hospital, out of the atmosphere, and started moving into what appeared to be outer space. That's what it looked like.